with a focus on reducing vulnerability to natural hazards and building resilience to climate change impacts. The government of Grenada is receiving support from the World Bank and the Climate Investment Fund to install a number of automatic climate stations, part of the initiatives as government develops a hydrometric network. The development of an improved and effective network will provide real-time or near real-time hydromet data to support planning, engineering, and disaster early warning activities, promoting public health safety and reducing vulnerability to potential disaster events, as well as improved hazard mitigation. Acting Chief Land Use Officer within the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, Mr. Trevor Thompson, says that 33 new climate stations will be installed, comprising of synoptic stations, climate stations, agroclimate stations, hydrometric stations with pressure transducers, hydrometric stations with radars, groundwater stations, and marine stations or tide gauges. The ministries and agencies collaborating in this project are the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, Ministry of Finance Procurement Unit, Ministry of Climate Resilience, Environment, Forestry, Fisheries, Disaster Management and Information, Ministry of Finance Physical Planning Unit, Ministry of Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs, Ministry of Tourism, the National Parks Division, NAWASA, MBIA, the Meteorological Office, and NADMA. The region, as he further explains, will also have access to the information.
The data that is collected will have a benefit a suite of stakeholders across the country. And of course, when we look at the regional context, all of the data collected here will feed into the regional climate modeling centers in CIMH, Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology in Barbados, and the UWI Mona Climate Center, the 5 Cs, and the U.S. Department for that handles climate-related information, and then it will feed into the global models that the World Meteorological Organization is working for. So, in the long term, with this data, Grenada will be able to be more proactive in terms of producing its own joint monitoring data.
55 rain gauges will be installed to support the automatic weather stations installed. The stations will record data such as rainfall, temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, wind speed and direction, evapotranspiration, soil temperature, leaf wetness, solar radiation, river discharge, tide levels, and groundwater levels. Mr. Thompson spoke about the long-term benefits from such system.
In terms of the long-term beneficiaries, you talking about when we're looking at planning for water supply and distribution, or even the management of water resources in general, flood management, because this data will feed into watershed management and watershed modeling, which will also help us with designing, with developing flood hazard maps for Grenada, landslide hazard maps for Grenada, and a number of other hazard maps that will assist us. It will also feed into the predicting the amount of sea level rise that we could plan for in the future, so that we could address issues on the carronage, the airport, the coastal areas where the hotels, etc. We can now better design buildings and a host of other adaptation measures that we would need to focus on.
Installation of the different hydrometric devices will continue across the Tri-Island by the international company Sutran OTT that has been contracted by the government of Grenada. Mr. Patrick George, consultant, says that about 60% of the installation has been completed.
To date, I can report that we have accomplished at least 60% of the civil works. Within the next week, we should be receiving the towers that would be installed and the guide wires. So within the next month, everything should be completed in terms of civil works and installations.
This installation, which began on October 29th, is expected to have a duration of 8 weeks and is expected to end by December 15th. All hydrometric systems are expected to be fully functional by February of 2020. For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Mina Booker.